As someone who grew up in the 90s, I love the first Space Jam. But with Space Jam: A New Legacy, I have a ton of questions. Does it deserve the hate? Can it live up to the Space Jam legacy? And are the fans true fans who are just living on the island of misunderstood fans? Or should they be ashamed for liking this new movie? I watched the movie myself, and what I found out may surprise you. Before I get into that, spoilers ahead for Space Jam: A New Legacy. And I also want to introduce a friend of mine who's going to be analyzing this movie with me, the nostalgia nerd.
Back in my day, I loved the old Space Jam movie with Michael Jordan. Well, let's start off with the script. It was terrible, written awful, and there was nothing that really actually engaged you at all.
Okay, I would say that there were parts of the script that were bad. I would say some of LeBron James' lines were a little bit cringeworthy, and obviously the Porky Pig rapping scene was awful.
What up? It's Porky Pig. They call me P-double-L-G. Step to me, he don't want no trouble.
However, there are still some good points about this script. Some of the interactions between Bugs Bunny and LeBron. I actually thought that was when the script was really good.
Bring it in, man. Listen, I need your help.
You missed your cue.
Let's also talk about the gathering of the different Looney Tunes. I thought that there were some great one-liners thrown in there.
Hold up. You want these guys?
Basketball? Are you kidding me? This stunt here is gonna get me into the Justice League penthouse with free parking.
But that brings me to my next point. The plot and the characters just don't make sense. With the first Space Jam, it was all about Michael Jordan not being a basketball player, and it was about the Looney Tunes trying to save themselves. This plot was awful. I mean, after all, why did this algorithm want to be praised?
Good point. I mean, after all, when we talk about that final basketball scene and how all of the spectators were going to be captured in there, it doesn't really make much sense. There's got to be something that makes sense, because there wouldn't be fans if the plot didn't make sense. Ali G's motivation made sense from basically the first 2/3 of the movie. He wanted to use LeBron to get popular. He wanted that acknowledgement from LeBron, and he wanted it from the rest of the world. So what do? You actually take advantage of the weak relationship between LeBron and his kid and turn LeBron's kid against him. It actually speaks a lot to themes that affect people today, such as social media popularity, and also the idea of algorithms that try to create the best thing possible, whether it be movies, which is something that's happening in real life, or even what content for you to watch next.
And the Looney Tunes joining up with LeBron, that didn't make sense either. Why not get people from the Matrix, and why not use the Justice League?
Yeah, it would make sense that the Justice League would try and help out somebody with their kid. But wait a second. They never would have asked the Justice League. They probably wouldn't even talk to him. Bugs Bunny certainly wouldn't. He had his own motivation, which was to get his group back together. I would say overall the plot does make sense up until like the very last bit of it, which is still a little weird. It would make sense that LeBron James's actions lead to the problem in this movie, and it forces his character actually change and become more accepting of his son Dom. It also makes sense that Dom may not completely understand what algorithm is doing. Clearly, he was keeping stuff from him. And I think that this ties into a deeper theme about popularity and how much we value that in our own culture. You didn't see any of that in the original Space Jam.
Okay, but what about the game itself? It didn't make any sense.
When we don't understand the rules of the game, then, and specifically like how much something counts versus something else, being down by 1 point or 1,000 points, it really doesn't get anybody emotionally invested because we don't understand what the stakes are. But it's not like stakes actually make a good movie. I mean, take The Last Airbender, for instance. It was clearly laid out what the stakes are, and that movie sucks. Whereas Space Jam: A New Legacy, the basketball game, had some entertaining moments and allowed the tunes to be tunes, because that was how they were able to win, was that LeBron had to allow everybody to be themselves, including the Looney Tunes, which allowed us to actually see the fun Looney Tunes stuff. And on top of that, it actually relates to how people like to consume basketball nowadays. We don't always care about what the score of a game is. We just like seeing the highlights on things like House of Highlights or Twitter.
But that's not how I remember my Space Jam.
Yeah, because it's not your Space Jam. This is a movie and a Space Jam that is for the new generation. But most importantly, Nostalgia Nerd, you made me learn something about this. which is that nostalgia is just in the eye of the beholder. What was really nostalgic to you and what you really like, that was because you experienced it. This new movie is something for other people to experience and other kids to really, really like and be nostalgic for 20 years from now. And this movie will probably be remembered the same way. It's all about acceptance and letting people be who they are. It's not Space Jam 1. No, it's not. But if you are a fan of Space Jam 2, you don't deserve to be on the island of misunderstood fans being ridiculed all the time. You deserve to be part of the larger table of fandom. And if you want to be a part of the fandom community that I'm building here to create some more positivity in the world of fandom, subscribe to my channel for more great defenses.